Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a topic that is fundamentally reshaping how modern businesses operate. We're talking about diversity. But we're not just looking at it as some corporate buzzword or a quick box you have to check for HR. No, we're looking at it as the absolute strategic heart of corporate social responsibility, or CSR. The source material we're exploring today reveals that prioritizing diverse teams is actually a massive, tangible driver of real business success. Okay, let's dive into this. To really wrap our heads around the power of diversity, we need to take a step back and look at the big picture first. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the true scope of CSR. Then we'll break down the 4 pillars. After that, zooming in on diversity, followed by the internal business advantage, the external market advantage, and finally, we'll wrap up with diversity in action.
All right, part 1, the true scope of CSR. We're going way beyond just the environment here.
Because before we can really appreciate the strategic value of diversity, we've got to shatter a pretty common myth. Think about it for a second. When I say corporate social responsibility, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Are you picturing executives out planting trees or maybe saving endangered pandas? Now, while the environment is absolutely critical, for sure, our sources emphasize that it's really just one piece of a much larger puzzle. If a company's efforts stop at the edge of the forest, well, they're missing the bigger strategic picture. To actually succeed today, forward-thinking companies aim for what's known as the triple bottom line. This is a framework that takes the traditional, old-school focus on pure financial profit and expands it. It brings social and environmental metrics right into the mix. You'll often hear it summarized as people, planet, and profit, or sometimes revenue. And the ultimate goal? It's for a company to succeed across all 3 of those dimensions at the exact same time. You literally cannot sacrifice the people just to boost the profit, or even just to save the planet. It's the whole shebang.
Moving on to part 2, the 4 pillars explained. Let's look at the core components of CSR.
Our sources actually outline 4 broad pillars here. First up is economics. Because, let's face it, you have to stay profitable to do any good in the first place. But this also means things like ensuring fair wages and providing jobs in areas that really need them. Second is ethics. That's your anti-bribery stance, basically just doing the right thing. Third is diversity, which is our main focus today, making sure there's genuine fairness and representation. And finally, philanthropy, which is actively doing good for society, like funding food banks or helping out with disaster relief.
And this brilliantly illustrates how people at the heart of our development is treated as a crucial quadrant of corporate strategy. It's given the exact same weight as environmental impacts, community involvement, and driving business for good. By placing people in this core quadrant, it proves a massive point. Human capital and representation aren't just secondary considerations or nice-to-haves. They are the absolute foundation.
So, part 3, zooming in on diversity and why it is a strategic necessity. When we talk about diversity within the context of CSR, we're talking about a really broad spectrum. It's the active, intentional process of ensuring fairness and representation across age, gender, race, culture, national origin, backgrounds, and ethnicities. It's about waking up to the fact that a totally homogeneous group severely limits a company's perspective. On the flip side, a diverse workforce brings an absolute wealth of totally different viewpoints, talents, and life experiences to the table. It's a total game changer.
Let's look at a super practical example from the sources, diversity of age. It's something that's really easy to overlook, but the material highlights this brilliantly. As one source puts it, if you hire only people in a certain age bracket, you're asking for trouble. Why? Well, think about it. If your workforce is entirely older, everyone is going to hit retirement age at the exact same time. But if they're all young, you might end up facing constant turnover as they jump ship for new opportunities. So by making sure you have diversity of age, a company is actually protecting itself logistically. It creates this beautifully balanced, self-renewing workforce. You've got the older generation passing down crucial institutional knowledge to the younger generation, which completely bridges that knowledge gap. It's a perfect example of how diversity isn't just some moral imperative, it's a literal structural necessity if you want your business to survive in the long run.
All right, part 4, the internal business advantage. Let's talk operational efficiency.
So you might be wondering, how does committing to this people pillar actually impact the bottom line? Well, the business case for diversity generally splits into 2 main camps, internal perks and external perks. Internally, we're talking about operational efficiency. How smoothly the machine actually runs. That means retaining your best staff, boosting their productivity, and easily attracting new talent. Externally, it's all about how the world sees you, your brand reputation, and your appeal to global buyers. Let's unpack that internal side first.
Internally, the perks are incredibly compelling. Look, an increase in staff turnover is the absolute last thing any company wants. It's a nightmare. But when an organization actually commits to fairness, employees are noticeably happier. And here's the kicker. Happier employees don't just get more done, they actually stick around. This massively reduces the painful, draining costs of constantly having to recruit and train new people.
Furthermore, having a strong CSR strategy is like a magnet for top talent. Listen to this great insight from Susan Cooney, who was an executive at Symantec. She says, "The triple bottom line, people, planet, and revenue, is what the next generation of workers are looking for in an employer." Honestly, if you want to recruit the best and brightest minds of this next generation, your company has to demonstrably value diversity and social responsibility. It's simply no longer optional if you want to acquire top talent.
Let's shift gears to part 5, the external market advantage. How does this impact your market position?
Looking outward, a highly visible commitment to diversity actively expands a company's customer base. Modern consumers are smart. They hold businesses accountable. They actively prefer to spend their money with companies they view as good corporate citizens. Doing this earns real trust and respect from stakeholders, and it actually helps preempt those nasty, reputation-damaging incidents. In our hyper-connected world, consumers will absolutely take their money elsewhere if they feel a company's values don't line up with basic fairness and equity.
So, the crucial point is this. Management diversity is a literal competitive advantage in a multi-ethnic world. Think about it. If your leadership team actually reflects the diverse global market that you're selling to, you're going to understand those customers better. You'll market to them more effectively. And, quite frankly, you will out-earn competitors who are flying blind without that perspective.
Finally, Part 6, Diversity in Action. Let's look at some real-world examples.
Let's move to and see how this builds out in the real world, starting with Coca-Cola. For Coke, their strategic success entirely depends on getting people all over the planet to drink their beverages, right? So they deliberately build a public persona of inclusiveness. By purposefully appealing to people of all races, religions, nationalities, interests, and talents, they convert a wildly diverse global population into fiercely loyal consumers. For them, their diversity strategy is virtually indistinguishable from their global marketing strategy.
Another fantastic example from the text is Starbucks. They use a socially responsible hiring procedure to deliberately diversify their staff. They actually focus their recruiting efforts on groups that are so often overlooked. We're talking about hiring refugees, actively seeking out young individuals just entering the workforce, and employing military veterans. And the result? Our sources point out that Starbucks enjoys much lower rates of employee turnover directly because of this profound commitment to their people.
But we do have a bit of a warning here. An executive from Royal Dutch/Shell noted that corporate social responsibility is not a cosmetic. It must be rooted in everyday operations. This is huge. If diversity is just a shiny page on your company website or maybe a mandatory once-a-year training seminar, it's going to fail to catch fire. To actually reap those internal retention benefits and those external market advantages, diversity has got to be genuinely, deeply woven right into the daily operational fabric of the business.
So, we've seen today how diversity goes way, way beyond simple compliance. It's a vital engine for innovation, retention, and explosive market growth. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Take a hard look at your own workplace, your own team, or even the companies you personally choose to buy from. Do they truly invest in the people aspect of the triple bottom line, or are they just scratching the surface? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep asking those tough questions.